Google Translate, and quite a lot of coffee. This year it was of course much easier because I already knew what steps to go through and so on and so forth. It was still in check, but I still managed to fill in the tax return forms much faster. So once again, I just want to share some ideas or some thoughts I had while working on my tax return forms, and just maybe some tips for you if you are actually working on your tax return forms, or if you're thinking about going the entrepreneurship way and you will have to deal with taxes and at some point. So first of all, I need to share my first win, or it depends how you look at it. It might be a win, it might be a loss, but this year I have to pay taxes about 4 times more than last year. So I was thinking about it while submitting the form. That might be quite a lot of money, and the first tendency was to think about, oh, I'm losing that money. But actually, I've managed to change my angle and look at it through the other perspective. Hey, if I'm paying more tax, that means that I've done much better in the previous year than compared to the previous 2 years. And that's actually something that I should celebrate, not grieve about the taxes I'm paying. Also, the other thing that I was thinking of is that those taxes will actually be used for something good. I hope. I have no control over that. But then again, what's the point of me worrying or being sad about me paying taxes when I cannot change that? And as I said, I've changed my mindset for my focus from worrying about how much I'm paying to actually thinking of people that might actually benefit from those taxes, be it somebody in a hospital or somebody using some public services, or you name it. Now, I also want to share some tips for dealing with it, because as I said, I've seen and I keep seeing lots of people around freaking out about the tax season and the fact that they have to fill in the tax return forms on one hand side, and on the other hand, the fact that they have to pay taxes. I've even seen people so stressed out about the taxes and so upset that they allowed that to become a distraction for them. So instead of focusing on growing their business and generating more revenue and generating more income, basically, they prefer to blame the government for taking the money away, or they prefer to use this as an excuse for their own lack of action, right? And to a certain extent, I was there as well a few years ago, not with the taxes, but I was looking at fees that services like PayPal, for example, are charging you for simply transferring money, right? And it was outrageous fees, at least at that point. So for quite a long time, I was stressed about it, and I was like, hey, they are taking so much money from me. But I realized pretty soon that that was actually consuming my bandwidth and my resources and my willpower, and I could have used all those resources to generate more money, and don't care so much about what PayPal makes out of me as well anyway, because they are still providing me a service that I'm using. So having said that, I just want to share a couple of tips on how to actually deal with the tax season, or just when it comes to paying your taxes. And the very first tip is, of course, to be prepared. Don't let things for the last moment. And when I say be prepared for paying those money if you have to pay taxes. Now, in my first year of entrepreneurship, I didn't pay taxes. I actually got money back from the state because for half a year I was still working on a full-time job. And then when I switched to my own business and freelancing, I've done that for half a year. But basically I had paid way more tax before, and then actually at the end of the year I got some money back. In my second year of entrepreneurship, I paid zero tax just because I wasn't making so much money yet, and there's a yearly discount in the Czech Republic, so I was still in that cap. Third year, I started already paying some taxes, and as I said, now in my fourth year, this is the year when I paid 4 times more taxes than last year. But one of the very first tips is just to be prepared for it. As I said, don't let things for the last minute. Don't just let things and okay, it's the 1st of April, I had to submit a tax return form yesterday, and I will have to pay the taxes soon. So if I would have just woken up now that, oh my god, I have to pay so much tax, I would have had to pull the money out of somewhere. Whereas if you are prepared for it and you start preparing for it, like now you start preparing for next year, for example, it will be much easier next year. How can you do that? Well, set some money aside. That's easy. every month decide to put aside 5-10% from your income or from your revenue in a separate account. Keep it hidden somewhere so you're not tempted for towards using it. And then, of course, during tax season or when you have to pay the taxes, it's pretty straightforward. You get done with it. Another thing that I'm doing is that I'm actually using a piggy bank. And when I say a piggy bank, I'm not talking about the actual physical piggy bank, but I'm using a service called Revolut. And it's basically a phone app, but it also comes with a card. And it has a service called the Vault. Hey Cindy, thank you for joining. So it has a service called the Vault, and what it does is you can set it up so it rounds up anything you pay, it rounds it up to the closest number, and then that difference, they put it in your vault. So it's literally like a virtual piggy bank, right? Well, I'm using Revolut for many things, not only for that, but that's one of the services that I really like about it. So Revolut is a phone app. I don't want to talk too much about it right now. I'm just talking about this feature for Revolut. But if you have questions about it, let me know and I can give you some more information. So basically what it does is, as I said, let's say I'm going somewhere and I'm paying for a coffee, which costs €1.75, right? Or $1.75. What it does, it rounds it up to 180, and those 5 extra cents, it puts it into my vault. So it's like me putting 5 cents into my piggy bank. And of course I can choose to multiply that. So I can choose a 4 times, 5 times, 10 times multiplier. And as I said, every time I pay something with the card, it rounds it up, it adds it to my vault. And of course I can set up some targets for my vault. And then at the end of the year, when I have to pay the taxes, I can just use the money in the vault. Or if I don't have enough money in the vault, of course, I will put some more on top. Or if I have more than what I need to pay for the taxes, I will just buy something nice for myself. Because why not? But once again, so this is the first tip regarding being prepared. Put money aside throughout the year. Either choose to consciously set aside 5-10% of your revenue or income in a separate account, or use a piggy bank or a virtual piggy bank like the one I was mentioning from Revolut. There are many other services like that. Now, the second thing is, besides having the money, is being prepared in terms of the paperwork. And this is where you have to decide if you want to outsource it maybe. So let's say I'm really bad at it. I have no idea how to keep track of expenses, receipts and whatnot. Great, outsource it. Or if you cannot outsource it and you really have to do it yourself, change your mindset about it. Don't let it become a stress. Now, personally, I like to work with numbers, and I'm the science guy, so I'm pretty good at numbers and graphs and charts and whatnot and spreadsheets. But even so, it is quite tedious to go through all the things and put them together for the final form. So one easy thing you can do is to change your mindset on how you deal with the actual tax return forms. Hey Casey, thank you for joining. So several things I was doing just to change my perspective on it. First of all, I was changing my environment. So I'm trying to use happy things, like a nice folder where I keep all my paperwork, rather than the boring dull one that I had before. Of course, when I sit down and play with numbers and invoices and receipts, I use colored pens as well. Once again, I'm trying to make it fun for myself. So I'm trying to not to think about the stressful part, but I am trying to make it fun for myself. And as usual, because I'm trying to change the environment, I also use essential oils a lot. You know that by now about me. And especially when I work with financial stuff, I'm using an oil called Abundance. I love the smell, and the name says it all. Even though I'm working on taxes and giving money away, as I said, I like to link it with the fact that, hey, I made money